All right, my friends, just a few words about your assignment this week, where you are supposed to go to allsides.com, which is a website that's aimed at bursting through the filter of bias that is fed to you online. And so, if you click a lot on progressive or left-leaning things, then you are fed more of that. And if you click more on conservative or right-leaning things, you're fed more of that. So you're sort of directed more and more and more into solidifying to the point of rigidity your thinking on certain issues. And so AllSides was developed to help you or help users kind of make sure that they are always reading stories or seeing coverage from a variety of viewpoints. So if you even could make it a habit to go to a website like AllSides when you're looking for your news, and make sure that you read from a variety of publications and not just the ones that social media or algorithms are trying to direct you to, you're going to do a really good job of understanding the overall conversation better. So your assignment this week is aimed at having you sort of bring analytical thinking to the same news story that is covered by right-leaning, center, and left-leaning news outlets. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to allsites.com. I am filming this in June of 2021, so by the time you see it, these stories will be dated, but I just want to give you the idea. Anyhow, so you'll see they list some top stories of the day. So you get to look around a little bit, and you get to choose a story, and then you're going to read 3 articles on that same news story from the different points of view. So there's one here about Nancy Pelosi announcing House Select Committee on the January 6th Capitol riot. And you'll see here from the left, they give you an article, from the right, from the center. But you might think, I'm not interested, I don't want to read that. You can scroll down. There's one here about Biden laying out a crime prevention strategy. And again, there's a story on it from the center, from the right, and from the left. There's another option here, bipartisan group, White House officials strike agreement on infrastructure framework. And if you're sort of like, I don't like any of those, what you can do is click here on more headline roundups, and you'll see, oh, sorry, my screen's not big enough to show you all this. You'll see, there we go, let me adjust, haha. So software entrepreneur John McAfee found dead in Spanish prison, and you can see that they give you 3 stories on that, from the center, from the right, from the left, okay? But if you're not into that, you could click on the next one, Supreme Court rules in favor of cheerleader and student free speech case. And again, they give you kind of a summary, and then they provide you with 3 stories from 3 different points of view. So you have a little bit of clicking around you can do to hopefully find a story, that you can get your brain into a little bit. So let's say I choose this Biden lays out crime prevention strategy. And, it kind of tells me the summary here. The strategy calls for tougher enforcement of federal gun control laws. So we know right away that there's going to be different points of view between left and right on this. And also would just note that it's not always correct to think that the center is the most preferable or the least biased, because the center actually has bias too. So there's no such thing as no bias. There are facts. Facts are given characterization, interpretation by anyone who encounters them based on that person's values, history, experiences. So everything has bias, and it's just a matter of learning to recognize it. So what you will do this week when you've chosen your story is you will then read the 3 articles. And for me, rather than sitting here and reading out loud to you all 3 articles, geez, Jocelyn, shut up. I just want to point out a couple things that strike me right away. So from the center, we have this headline. It has to end. Biden targets illegal gun sales, rogue dealers in strategy to combat rising crime. And then you also want to pay attention to things like the picture. So here, he's looking official because he's behind a podium, has microphones, and he looks, connected to his audience. These would be things you can point out in your analysis that you do this week. I also would say notice things like what kind of verbs are used in the headline, what kind of verbs are used in the article, what kinds of facts, what kind of money are they talking about, what kind of language in the the new proposal are they talking about? So here we see that they're emphasizing that Biden is going after illegal gun sales and rogue dealers. It's part of a strategy. He wants to combat rising crime. Okay. Then we look at the same story from the right. Now, mind you, when you're doing this for your own assignment, by the way, you will click and read the full story. So when you get down here, you get this read full story. You'll read the full story so that you can really see the slant that the article is taking. I just don't want to waste your time with that today. So then there'll be a story from the right. Biden vows a crackdown on illegal gun dealers, labeling them merchants of death. So the language here is actually showing a little bit of bias, which is this article is going to be a lot about how Biden is going after guns and unfairly painting gun dealers as the merchants of death. So it's kind of like a little bit more like bringing in the doom language, and it's taking a little bit more of a position. It's very subtle, but there is a little bit of a feel like, yeah, that liberal Biden, he's gonna go after our rights here. And so then you can read the whole article and see what they choose to include. I have to say the photo that they use here is good. It's reasonable. Sometimes when you have, for example, like a right-leaning news outlet covering a liberal, president, or on the opposite side, when there was a conservative president and liberal media outlets, the choices sometimes are to use photos where, say when it was Donald Trump, maybe a left-leaning newspaper would use some photo of him where he looked particularly, like where spittle was flying out of his mouth or something. So this photo here today of Biden is not so bad because he looks, smart enough and reasonable enough. I mean, there's nothing objectionable I can see in this photo necessarily. From the left, Biden warns of more pronounced summer crime spike as he announces plan to tackle gun violence. So we have from the left an idea that our president is warning us. That's nice, right? And he's going to tackle gun violence. So it makes him sound very much like he's, active and going after this problem. Whereas on the right, just from the headline, I can tell, it's a very different feeling. So when you're doing your analysis, you're really going to want to look at the verbiage, like what words have they chosen to use, but what supporting images have they chosen to use? And then when you do go in and click on the full story and read the full story, you'll probably notice differences in what quotes they choose to use and what kinds of statistics and facts they choose to use. So you're trying to figure out, what differences are you seeing? We're talking about the same story, but how are these different points of view choosing to characterize these facts with the bias of that publication? So you're going to kind of write out your best analysis for me of the three stories, and you're going to submit that. Okay. And hopefully just at some point in your brain too, then this is going to lodge with you like, oh, AllSides.com, actually a good place for me to go when I'm feeling a little bit too like wound up, about my personal point of view on something. Go and you could start every morning if that's when you read a little bit of news, put your toe in, and just kind of read from the different points of view, and you can go, okay, I see that there, different folks think differently, and it's good for me to know how other people are thinking because it keeps me from getting caught up in and muffled inside of my bubble. Okay? All right. Have fun with it this week, my friends.